So in this one, we bitch about the government, bitch about lousy gear, and probably get a YouTube strike. Let's do it. Hey folks, welcome back to Bulletin Brass. I am breaking one of my own rules today, and we're getting a little political here. Okay, not just a little. First, we're going to pick on the ATF. This is right off the ATF's website. This is uh, basically their mission statement, according to them. This isn't even, their mandate from the federal government, from Congress. This is straight off their site. ATF's responsibilities include the investigation and prevention of federal offenses involving the unlawful use, manufacture, and possession of firearms and explosives, acts of arson and bombings, and illegal trafficking of alcohol and tobacco products. Now, mind you, that's illegal trafficking and unlawful use and manufacture and possession, right? The ATF also regulates, via licensing, the sale, possession, and transportation of firearms, ammunition, and explosives in interstate commerce. Many of the ATF's activities are carried out in conjunction with task forces made up of state and local law enforcement officers, such as Project Safe Neighborhoods. We could make a long list of things that they get their nose into, and policies they've created and regulations they do that don't fit into that. They basically make up their own laws with no actual, congressional activity. They basically stretch their mandate so far that it's silly putty. They are now investigating COVID relief fraud. So if you are an FFL or otherwise a firearms related business that they are involved with somehow, and you got COVID relief funds, there were many programs, right? They are going to be on the lookout for you to have committed some form of fraud and not investigated themselves. They are just on the lookout. And then they would tip off an auditor who would then come do an investigation. However, they're not getting any training in this. They are not financial investigators. They aren't fraud investigators. There's no program to teach them any of this. It's just, hey, if you suspect there's anything, and here's what we think you should be suspecting, go to it. One more thing to screw over an FFL, right? So I'm guessing in practice, from what I've heard, most of the field agents for the ATF, that come around and work with FFLs they're not the political folks. They are not interested in screwing over the FFLs they work with. So I'm betting that most of them are going to just ignore this. But it's an example of the ATF stepping beyond their actual area of responsibility and taking something upon themselves that they shouldn't. And so far, haven't heard anything about them being smacked around for it. It also, that mission statement, doesn't include anything about changing definitions in order to change what qualifies as a federal offense. They do that regularly, right? Hey, 1 minute this is legal, and then we change our mind and it's not legal, just so that they've got something else to enforce and to harass us with. So moving on, most of us are aware at this point of the rally that happened last weekend in support of those arrested in connection to the January 6th protest in Washington. The organization that held the rally has held several in Washington and basically got no attention, no media attention, nothing. It was a non-event. And then they held one at the Capitol. And apparently, lots of media attention, lots of, government attention. Oh my God, it's going to be the next coming of the Ku Klux Klan, right? This is, far right fringe maniacs, and oh my God, it's going to be chaos. No. I'm pretty sure there were more undercover feds in the protest than regular protesters, and there were definitely more uh, police, federal officers, Capitol Police, whatever, standing around in riot gear, uh, twiddling their thumbs, and journalists than there were protesters. Because really, it wasn't a protest, it was a rally. It was just showing support, raising money, raising awareness for people who are currently incarcerated for various crimes. I don't know the breakdown of exactly what each one is charged with to tell you which of these are bullshit and which of these are, not political grandstanding. I just don't know, so I'm not going to speculate. But it is basically going to be meme fodder for the next decade, because the FBI ended up temporarily arresting, detaining, whatever you want to call it. I'm guessing detaining, since they didn't actually arrest them. One of their own undercover agents, by group of their undercover agents, because there were so many of them, and they were mostly armed and mostly looking like a bunch of assholes, at least based on the video and photographs I've seen. They became suspicious of themselves. And yeah, when it's so overdone on your part that you end up where the problem child that you feel the need to harass and detain turns out to be one of your own, yeah, you might have overblown what was going on, right? Just saying. Uh, but this is a trend. This is something that's been going on for decades. I'm not sure where it started, but the first times I'm aware of it are like the late 70s, early 80s with motorcycle clubs, where uh, basically the various agencies would send in somebody undercover, and their job was literally to instigate trouble, to try to talk these people into doing criminal things, to then crack down, to then send in officers and arrest them. And in several cases, the club leadership was like, no, 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 we're not getting involved in that. We're not getting involved. No, 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 no. And the person would keep pushing, 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 and finally, get one or two of them in a kind of private meeting and keep pushing, and they would finally say something to the effect of, "Well, if you want to do that, you go ahead. I'm not, but fine, whatever." And they would edit the tape in order to justify arresting that person, and never got uh, no consequences for the feds for basically manufacturing a crime and dragging somebody else into it. That was okay. And I think that emboldened them. They continued that behavior and have gotten worse and worse at it, to the point where, uh, honestly, if you are being talked to by the FBI, insist on it being recorded by a third party. Yourself, your lawyer, do not trust their own records. I mean, it's a known thing. This is not me being a conspiracy theorist. Like, this is something that any lawyer who is familiar with the FBI will tell you. They won't record it because they take their notes and they manipulate it so that you sound guilty. I mean, you could literally have told them about your shopping trip to the grocery store, and they will conflate that with a later question about drug dealing and connect the two, leave out everything that was in between, present that to a judge, and get a warrant for your arrest and seizure of all your property. And that's legal. That's okay for them. So you probably want to have your own tape, right? You want to have somebody who records that on your behalf, rather than counting on them to be honest, because they aren't. And it's starting to come back and haunt them because they're doing it to people with power. They got caught doing it to various generals recently, to various politicians, and I think we're going to see some pushback, but probably not until after Biden is out of office. We're going to need a change in management up top in order to have people in position to do that.